cargo flights are allowed to enter South Africa, Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula announced that South African airspace is closed to passengers, but SAA and its business rescue practitioners are engaging with governments to assist with the process of repatriation. To tell us more about those plans, I'm now joined by the chairperson of the SAA Pilots Association, Grant Back. Very good morning to you, Grant. Talk us through what is happening at the moment as far as SAA pilots are concerned and repatriation measures.
Good morning, Jane, and good morning, listeners, and thanks for the opportunity. South African Airways actually declared an essential service towards the end of last month, which allowed us to get people to and from the airport to be able to sign on for duty. The COVID-19 pandemic worldwide has certainly created a bit of a turmoil in the industry, and obviously with all flights being grounded in South African Airways, this comes at a big cost to the aviation sector. So one of the ways in which airlines are making money around the world is flying cargo, which you've already discussed. And then, of course, the repatriation flights have now also popped up on radar, and something that South African Airways has engaged in. To date, we've organized, or the company has organized, 20 flights between South Africa and Germany, repatriating all the German citizens, and that started on the 4th of April. There are other flights to Europe as well. I believe we've got a flight to Brussels, which is in discussion, and of course to São Paulo in South America. The airspace has opened up, allowing us to do these flights, but it was closed to all foreign airlines arriving here, in particular allowing their crew to overnight in South Africa. I'm not sure if this is being looked at the moment, but at the end of the day, it's giving South African Airways an opportunity to play quite a large part in the humanitarian role, not only to get passengers back to Europe, but also from flying essential cargo from China. There's a flight that's on the cards at the moment from Guangzhou, flying essential medical supplies and testing equipment back to South Africa.
Grant, tell me how many pilots are involved in this. I mean, how do they feel, by the way, bringing people back? Is there some sort of concern for their safety? And what happens to those pilots who are not flying?
Jane, good question. Obviously, at the end of last month, our entire operation was grounded, and we're slowly starting to look at opportunities, be it cargo or repatriation flights, which is good news for the pilots because obviously we're all sitting on the ground, and we enjoy to fly, and obviously brings in revenue for South African Airways, which, as you know, and the listeners no doubt know, that is in business rescue. So I think flying with COVID-19, of course, brought in its own challenges. How do we keep our passengers or our crew safe and our passengers safe? So what we did was we got together with the company from the association side, and we looked at what the protocol was in flying with COVID-19 around the world. We have access to a lot of information, particularly as pilots, access to all the other pilots flying for star carriers. And we got their information, collated a lot of the data from them and also from IATA and from other bodies, and put together a very comprehensive pack on how our crew should be protected during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I did send you through some photographs. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to go through them or if you can put them up for the listeners, but basically where our crews are entirely outfitted in PPEs, which is head-to-toe protection, as well as gloves and masks. And of course, we have a protocol on how surfaces are wiped down before each flight. So the aircraft is totally sterilized before each flight and after each flight as well.
Grant, I know that you want SAA to be saved. I mean, is there still a way of saving SAA now? How can we do it, considering where we are as far as lockdown is concerned, these sort of emergency flights that we have to make? And have pilots been more involved in discussions on a way forward?
Well, you know, obviously, by the 5th of December, South African Airways was put in business rescue, and you know, we've been negotiating with the business rescue practitioners about a way forward. There have been a couple of plans. Initially, there was the, emergency plan of how we can keep SAA going. I think that was presented to our shareholder. They decided to relook at the plan, which was happening, and then, of course, COVID-19 was sprung upon us. I do, and as do all the employees of South African Airways, and their subsidiaries believe that SAA can definitely work. We have many challenges, obviously being in South Africa, geographically positioned in the world compared to, say, the Middle Eastern carriers. But if you look at Air New Zealand, they had a terrific turnaround where they were in a very similar position about 10 to 15 years ago, and they are one of the top airlines in the world today. That's going to come through right-sizing the airline, absolutely, and redefining who we are as an airline and what it is that we need to do. But that comes with leadership and that comes with skills. And as I've been quite vocal in the press before, I think that's where South African Airways was sorely lacking. We've made this known to the shareholder, and obviously with the imminent departure of our acting CEO in the next week, it's imperative that we get the right leadership appointed as soon as possible. Can SAA return to the skies as one of the global players? I believe so, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. I think the aviation landscape is going to look very different. I'm not sure how many players are going to be left standing. If SAA is left standing, I think there's an immense amount of opportunity that needs to be capitalized on as soon as possible, getting the right management team in place and putting together a business plan that will bring SAA into the post-COVID aviation landscape.
Right. Round back. Thank you for that.